Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics Friday Night Special here. It's still in East Chicago, Indiana. If you're online and watching, please press the share button because I think this is really going to show you what's going on here, what's really going on here. I'm in the West Calumet Complex. This is where I first came in August when I first came down here to cover this story. West Calumet Complex is probably like 95% African American, would you say?
Closely.
And a low income area, and pretty much in East Chicago, Indiana, they found in this complex lead levels that were 218 times the normal allowable lead limit. There's really no lead that should be allowed in your children's soil. At the time in August, they announced that they were forcing residents to find somewhere else to go. They were going to give them housing vouchers and all these other things. And I was also told by the EPA at that time that no problem with the water here. This is just a ground soil issue. That's where the lead is. To remind you, this area, East Chicago, Indiana, and this complex is right near a lead smelting plant, which has lead emitters. There is lead pipes under the ground. Pretty much this whole city was built on top of lead. So no wonder 218 times the normal limit. I'm here with Akeesha Daniels, and you're a resident here in West Calumet. We spoke in August. You showed me literally the bottom of your shower, which was the ground.
Yes.
It was pretty much infested with lead. You told me at the time, when you were in your 20s, you moved to this complex.
Yes.
And you never had any health issues before?
No. Nothing major. Just a cold or something like that. But since moving out here, I've had a lot of surgeries, a lot of health problems as far as being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I had a complete hysterectomy at 29. I gave birth to a child, and we moved out here when he was a month old. And he has ADHD. We're allergic to 30 out of 60 things. We have a slight learning disability. We've retained a grade. We're not reading on grade level or anything that he should be doing at this point. We're still a little behind. First, people were telling me I was an overprotective mom. When I started noticing the things in maybe preschool, Head Start with him, he wasn't reading, knowing the sight words, basic things that children should know that my other two children were on point with. He was a little bit behind, so I kept pressuring the doctor, like something is wrong, these are things. So when the teacher started to notice it, then I was like, okay, something's wrong. I knew something was wrong with him.
But with you also, I'm assuming you were just thinking you just ran into some bad luck, that all these health problems just started to happen.
Yeah, basically I was thinking, well, maybe, the hysterectomy caused the little things, but now seeing that I may have lead in my bones. I have to go have a bone density scan done to see if it's transferred to my bones, and maybe that's why my levels are so low right now. But I'm scared because I've lost 50% of my bone mass since 2006, and now I have to go get another test done to see if I've lost any more since then. So losing the bone mass could be, dislocations of my joints. Actually, my knees are probably bone on bone already. We've started the injections in my knees.
I'm pretty sure, I'm not a doctor, it's not normal for a 29-year-old to have a hysterectomy, and it's not normal for a 40-year-old to be having bone density scans.
I've had everything.
And by the way, is any of this stuff, is there a family history in your family for any of this stuff?
No. The rheumatoid, yes, but everything else, no.
And did doctors say that the rheumatoid arthritis could have caused some of these other things?
I'm thinking that the rheumatoid arthritis came after the hysterectomy because it sent me into menopause.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess women start to lose their bone density and different things once everything is removed from their reproductive organs.
And have you talked to any doctors since you've learned about the lead levels here to find out if that could have been a reason for all this?
Yes, that's why we're doing the bone density scan test and everything to see if it's transferred to my joints, because if the lead is being in my joints, then that could be a reason why my bones are deteriorating at a rapid rate.
And when I was here, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had just got a lead test but didn't have the results.
We still don't have the results. The health department.
I was here in August. You don't have the results?
No. The health department, we have to go to the health department when they're open and get them ourselves. They're not mailing them, or they haven't made copies to even give to us yet.
You know what's interesting? when I grew up in my area,
Mm-hmm.
middle class, white, if I'd go to the doctor, if I'd get a test for anything really,
Mm-hmm.
I would just get a phone call.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
4 or 5 days later, hey, you don't have AIDS, you know, whatever it was.
Yes.
Because you're pretty anxious when you
Yeah.
get tested for certain things to want to know the results. But that doesn't seem to have the same in practice for people who have African Americans who might be lead poisoned.
Well, I thought when I went to the school that day that I would have my results, but they didn't give them to us, and a lot of people are still waiting for them. So we don't have anything in black and white. And all this time I was thinking my children were being tested for lead when they start school. I didn't know they weren't being tested for lead. A lot of the children have never been tested for lead in this area.
Even after,
Even after.
when you moved in here,
Uh-huh.
do you remember on the renter's agreement or anything like that, if it mentioned that you lived right next to a lead smelting plant or
No.
anything like that?
No, it is never. It even gives a letter on the letters. You have to initial by that you're that this home is lead based. It's free, lead free. All these contaminants are not in these units, and that was a lie. So
Wait, slow down. On your renter's agreement, that's what it said?
on your lease, it has you signing a paper. It's a lot of different lines where you have to initial next to. You know, like you will keep this unit drug free, you will keep it safe and clean, but they're also having you sign that nothing in this house is lead based, and that's a lie. Not only was the walls and stuff painted, say, 40 years ago with lead based paint, our tubs were being painted when I first moved into this complex. So as you clean the tub and you put the Comet in there to clean it, the paint was chipping off, and you would be putting your kids in these tubs with that same paint.
You know, I think what's interesting when you look at East Chicago, Indiana versus Flint,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of similarities,
Mhm.
and the main difference is if Flint was kind of like a perfect storm, it's, you know, one big decision led to contamination,
Mhm.
switching to the water. This was like a slow motion demolition,
Yeah.
because this city pretty much as early as the 1950s, 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just interviewed an NFL football player, a former football player, who
Mhm.
grew up here in the 60s before the EPA, and they were playing out. They
Yeah.
built a park here right next to the lead plant.
Yes.
So either the city officials and the government was asleep at the switch, or they just didn't give a shit. Either one.
I don't think they gave a shit.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because going back and reading, like I said the last time we talked, reading all that paperwork, seeing that they were more concerned about the wildlife. You know, why build on top of something? And then we can't find paperwork to show who signed for this stuff to even be built. If you check at the libraries, there's no records of anyone's signature that was given for this complex to be built.
Mm-hmm.
But someone had to give the okay, because you can't build
Mm-hmm.
without an okay from someone.
Right.
Even in the newspapers, they had a breakdown where people were receiving bribes, 20,000, 10,000. People were being murdered in this city. Because if they spoke out about what was going on, they were actually being killed. The Hammond Times, either the Gary Post, gave a printout, date by date, step by step, of how money was changing hands for people when they even knew what was going on in this complex.
It seems crazy to me that I was here in August.
Mm-hmm.
They found 218 times the normal limit, but they, just as a precaution, didn't check the water.
No, and I told them from day one that I felt like the water should have been checked and tested. Because, like I say, I'm looking at the water. I watched what happened in Flint. I've been following it since day one. And I'm like, well, you know, it seems like all these cities and stuff are connected. Maybe we all using the same water. No one thought. Just because of Detroit, wouldn't the water flow? It's flowing through somewhere. Maybe we have some type of connection. But they told me, oh no, the water's fine. We just built this filtration plant. You know, you don't have to worry about the water. And then what, 2 weeks ago? Boom, article, water. But then they're still not telling us to use it.
Or how about revealing in real time what homes are you testing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you testing these homes versus the one across the street? Last night, I went in a home for someone that did get tested.
Mm-hmm.
Older woman, nice Hispanic, immigrated here at 27, and they tested her sink water,
Mm-hmm.
and they found lead.
Wow.
they did not test her shower, and they didn't test the home heater. So me and my accomplice here tested the water heater. Because if you test the water heater and something's wrong with it, then
It'll let you know.
yeah, the shower, and well, what came out was creamy first, then yellow, and we sent it out for a private test. So
Wow.
if a D-list internet person like me can find something in a home water heater that the EPA was in, what is that? Then what about the rest of the city?
Yeah.
What about Flint, who they cover this area? The EPA District 5 covers this area and Flint. And then I went across the street. For some reason, they wanted to test this woman's house across the street, but not the one not her neighbor right across the street. We found black water out of her water heater.
Oh, wow.
So my question is, let me tell you something. Maybe I'm a cynical person, but I don't think they're intentionally trying to kill you. But I don't think they're trying to help you.
Save me. They're not trying to save me or my kids. It's like we're put in the worst areas. I'm starting to see just a pattern. They put you in the worst areas. Then when you become sick and ill, it's your fault. You know, all this time I was thinking, well, maybe we're not eating right. You know, when my 19-year-old started having the digestional problems, I was like, well, maybe cut down on the pork. Maybe let's start eating a little ground turkey and stop eating so much beef and pork. Let's try. But the problems have still continued. I've switched what I'm feeding him, and he's still having these stomach problems. We've been waiting on someone from the CDC. They were supposed to call me back in August, set up an appointment for him to go to some male clinic in Chicago. We're still waiting. My children have had scarlet fever. They've had respiratory infections, ear infection, upper respiratory infections. All these things are just a pattern. And I'm thinking maybe it's something I'm doing wrong as a parent, but my house tested at a 32,000 in lead and 800 in arsenic. So it seems like the people that have the highest inside of their unit, we should have been the first to go. They should have helped us find somewhere to go.
But again, it goes back to what I said earlier.
Yeah.
And I could admit it.
Yeah.
If they found that in my home, I'd be at the Marriott tomorrow.
Right. They only put me away for 5 days at the Hampton Suites. A lot of us do want to leave. We don't want to stay in this. I don't want to keep keeping my kids in this, but when you have the landlords that don't want to accept the vouchers, or your voucher isn't enough money to move outside of the area, and why would you move from one contaminated side of town to the other? I don't know what else they want us to do.
Let's get into that. So they, when it came out that this was like a disaster zone and everybody had to leave, somehow it's a disaster zone, but you could stay for like 6 more months. So
yeah, just go ahead and stay. They usually say that the contaminants freezes in the winter. I guess the cold air is supposed to stop, but I don't believe it because it's still in the water. So even if we're not getting it from the outside in, but you got to look at it. My bathtub is an open area where contaminated dirt is up underneath. So every time we shower, are we messing with something? Are we breathing in more? You know, the ventilation system hadn't been cleaned in here since this complex was built. So we're breathing in all this.
Why would you believe anything they say? The EPA guy here told me the water is fine.
Yeah, and it's not. It's not.
The EPA is supposedly foremost experts on the environment, lead, chemicals, bacteria, all this stuff. They're either really stupid or willfully not looking in certain areas, willfully not communicating. Then you have the housing authority not communicating and this and that. To me, it seems like an environmental cover-up.
Yes, I agree. You know, back in 2008 when all my problems started with the housing situation, no one wanted to listen to me. When you're calling HUD to tell them about situations that's going on here, and the people in HUD are calling the supervisors and the managers at the housing authority, and they're calling you in for meetings as if you've done something wrong. When I'm telling you that something is wrong, no one wanted to listen. No one wanted to listen to me. They thought that I was just this overprotective, crazy.
And what were you telling them? This was 2008?
2008, when the hot water tank ruptured and I lost everything in my living room. I had to start all over again. Everything in my living room had to be replaced.
You're an expert. What generally causes hot tank ruptures?
Corrosion. And that doesn't just happen because the water doesn't do that. You have to have stuff in the water that reacts with the tank, and tanks don't come with heavy metals. So
I just don't get it. I just didn't get how people, no one in this whole entire area, even at the emergency room, the hospitals, this is something that they should have been looking at. Like, wait a minute, we having too many children coming from this certain area. This little area, all these children having strep throat, scarlet fever, ear infections, just skin rashes, different things that children shouldn't have constantly.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm a keep it real kind of guy.
Okay.
So I don't mean this to offend, but
Okay.
this is not the most educated area.
No, it's not.
And they bank on that.
Yeah.
They depend on that.
And they know that. That's why when I tell them, no, I have a college degree. I was going to school. I wanted to become a nurse. What I told you last time, I had did as far as a medical assistant. I got out. I went to Sawyer College right here in Hammond. I did school, got my degree, and I got instantly sick before I could even graduate. I didn't even make it to my graduation, and I had to shut down everything. These are things that I wanted to pursue. I wanted to become a nurse, but I can't be on my feet too long. I can't hold somebody and I'm falling down myself. And what job is going to hire me? I'm a liability already. And it stopped me. And that's why I think another reason why I was stuck here for so long is because I wasn't working. And it took a while. Because when I first applied for disability, they didn't want to give it to me because of my age. But once the lawyers and the judges got together and the judge looked at my overall health, he couldn't believe that, okay, this young lady is really going through. I mean, from just having DNCs, blood transfusion. These were things that I was doing on a daily basis, monthly basis. I was just sick to the point eyes were yellow. They thought I had jaundice. I mean, in the hospital, just constantly have to have blood transfusions because I was just sick. I know a lot of people whose mothers just have died that have been in this complex for 30, 40 years since they were built. And they just mysteriously got sick, all forms of cancer, and just died. But a lot of children are being medicated, ADHD, asthma, allergies.
And there's also the component, I'm assuming a lot of women here, just because women have the babies,
Right. And
get pregnant here.
Yeah.
Well, who the hell knows what's in those women's bloodstream when they're carrying a child?
And they're supposed to be tested.
Am I correct?
yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is,
I mean, people might be getting poisoned before they're even born.
Right. Because I've been in the same area for 40 years. I lived right outside of the complex for 28 years. Right outside the trailers where they had them set up.
And like I said before, lead is more exponentially dangerous the younger you are, and you can't get much younger than developing inside a womb.
Correct.
So.
And whatever I'm ingesting is being fed and ingested to the baby as well.
Yeah.
I'm a journalist. They say, you're supposed to stand here and be neutral and be a robot and don't have emotion, don't have an opinion. No, this is murder.
It is.
Because there's different types of murder. You shoot someone in the head.
You build a complex that has lead in it, and you put people in there that you know are going to get sick and start dying.
Right.
And what I find very, very troubling, and I think it sums it up. In Flint, when all that happened, and they switched from the Detroit water system to the Flint water system, GM said, we can't use this water for our parts and things like that.
You can't use it, but people can drink it.
Absolutely not. And they gave GM an exception, and they moved them back to Detroit water system. Yeah, they didn't give the same exception to human beings. The humans that drive the cars.
And that are taxpayers.
I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, but my job is to present the reality. And the reality is very doom and gloom. The reality is injustice. The reality is poison people and then blame the victim.
Yeah. And we're still being considered, they're poor, all they do is have children, and this, that, and the other. This is the things that I believe they think of us, but all of us are not like that. Some of us wanted to go to college and finish school or do what we had to do to make a living for our children and make sure we don't have to rely on the system to raise our children. I don't knock people that are on welfare. At one time I was on welfare. I needed it to survive. But when you have a governor that's leaving out, that lowers the wages so that I couldn't get $67 in food stamps, That's all I was getting. Where is the compassion for anybody? $67
I'll tell you
for
what.
me and 2 children to eat off of a month. $67 in food stamps.
You know where the compassion is.
It went out the window.
No. The governor gave the compassion to the corporations
Yeah,
and his wealthy donors. That's
Yeah.
where the compassion goes.
yeah.
The same governor who is part of the whole Make America Great team, but didn't find it kind of important to come down here.
No, he went to Kokomo. They had a tornado or something to go through there. He went there to visit.
A lot of white folk.
A lot of them. And now he's in Chicago having a fundraiser.
Oh.
He again, you flew over Indiana. You went through Indiana. You went past Indiana. Nothing. No compassion. Not a case of water. Not a turkey for Thanksgiving. You know, these people didn't understand that you waited till the wrong time to hit people's pockets. Those $67 could have helped me have a Thanksgiving. And now I'm stuck with another bill because now, even though it was nothing but $67, that $67 I got to do multiplied by 2 or 3 to make sure we can eat for the month. People don't realize just because we're not paying rent, I still have to pay NIPSCO. I still have to pay water and sewage. I still have to keep everything in here on. So not paying rent for 2 months, I may have had bills all year that I had to catch up on.
And I'm assuming what do you got, Medicaid?
Yeah. My kids are on Medicaid. I'm on Medicare. I don't even qualify for Medicaid. Even with my sickness, everything I pay for out of pocket.
And I was about to say, I'm assuming you have a lot of medical bills,
Yeah.
like a lot of people here,
Yes.
and you're paying out of pocket for a lot of it.
I'm paying out of pocket for a lot. Nothing's covered. Nothing. Co-pays when I go to doctor's visits. If I'm going to a specialist, it can be up to $100. And that's just to see the doctor. That's not even including what the prescriptions and stuff could be. And no one understands that. No one is there when I got to decide on if I want to pay, if I got to go back to generic medications for something that I may need to help with my rheumatoid or whatever is going on with my body. No one understands that. They think, oh, everybody that lives in the complex or in the projects, as they consider it, are living here free. Not so. I can pay up to $1,200 with all my bills. That's including rent. NIPSCO can be at least $700 during the winter months. And a lot of people think that, those poor people, we just want out. Some of us just want out of here. And I'm one of them. But I need help. I need the landlords to start looking at some of us that don't have evictions or different things in our history. I don't have that. I've been in the same place for 13 years. If I was a bad person or if my children were bad, the rules and regulations that we had out here, I would have been put out a long time ago.
No. Here's a common sense thing, all right? Here's a common sense thing. If you're poisoned in America, they fucking figure out where you have to live, not the poisoned person.
Yeah, they put you where they want you to go.
No, I'm saying they should have to take care of where you're living.
Yes.
Not you going to open houses and stuff like that.
You have to go and find your own. They're not paying for transportation. They're not giving gas for mileage. You know, I've been in Hammond, I've been in Gary, I've been in Maryville, I've been in Cherville, I've been to Highland, I've been in Griffith, I've been all these places. And then that's gas. That's time that I had to waste to go to these people for them to tell me, oh, we can't give you this unit because of A, B, C, or D. Not even taking into consideration that I've taken time to come to visit these homes. And they've known from day one that they weren't going to give them to me. So I felt like you should have just told me from day one. Don't have me traveling all these places knowing 9 times out of 10 you got some stipulations that I probably don't meet because of what my income bracket is. I just need somewhere to go where me and my children can be safe, you know. And it's just a clean environment. I just want to start over because I don't want to be out here in March and then they telling us that we, you know, or the sheriff is here to put us all out. Because we don't know what's going to happen come March. That's another thing. No one knows what housing or anyone is going to do come March. We don't know if we'll have an extension. Because the way they're talking now, they're getting ready to cut HUD. And they're getting ready to cut a lot of funding for these vouchers. So that's a new problem that a lot of us is going to have to worry about. Once we get out of this complex, are we going to be able to survive if our rent doubles? You know, it's just like we're set up for failure. from point one. We're set up for failure with this situation that's going to go on.
A lot of people think they're alone, but there's a few organizations, there's a few politicians, and there's a few media outlets that fight for what's right, and I'm going to keep fighting. And I think this area, at this point, I can't keep up with all the areas I got to fight for because there's too many of them, and
Yes.
I'm only one person, but I'm going to do what I can to keep exposing this. I got I told you about those lab test results that I think might show some interesting things, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you and your team
Yeah.
for being there from day one. We really appreciate you. And please keep exposing what's going on.
Yeah.
Because no one else is doing it. But we appreciate you in East Chicago.
Yeah.
And you're always welcome.